think that if you can take a no agenda approach in these type of things, where there's no foregone conclusion, it's just a question of what's the most pragmatic way to achieve our objectives.
Absolutely.
I'd imagine that's a pretty crucial part of what you're doing.
Absolutely, 100%. I was talking, I won't name the partner, but I was talking to one of our very key services partners last week. They said something really interesting to me, and this will appeal to anybody who's been involved for the time that I have or longer. And that is right now that real focus on getting the right people into organizations to transform them. It was easier in the lead up to Y2K than it is now. And having worked on the services and the supplier side at that point, I just find that really hard to fathom. And it really magnifies for me just how close we need to be with our partners, and how we need to not step out the way, but we need to facilitate their ability to bring their external expertise into our purchasing organization.
Yeah, and it's such a big thing where you're kind of melding these two organizations when it comes to services. And I always think that if you're involved in the procurement of services, you get this fantastic visibility of an organization, because you see the internal viewpoint, but you can also get a really good view on the external viewpoint. Consultancies are coming into your business. They're sitting down with teams and senior leaders and putting together reports and presenting to people. They are learning a lot about the business. And so I think procurement can capture quite a lot of information on actually what's really going on, internal narrative versus external. And sometimes you're going to get kind of people, not quite getting either side, but it must be a really interesting view just to uncover, areas where internal capability maybe isn't used as effectively as it could be, or actually other areas where external capability is utterly crucial to the business, which goes into all the kind of idealistic topics around how do you measure value more effectively. And you don't want to look at your services budget and say cut spend. You want to say increase ROI.
Whoever you work for, right? Whoever you work for, if you're in procurement, savings is a target. But as you said, what are the other value levers? Which hopefully we get to talk a bit about today if we have the time.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it's kind of some of this stuff is really kind of the ideal perfect view in the future. There's a lot of work to do for majority of organizations to get up to the point where they can start really accessing all that good stuff. But I definitely think that's the kind of the ideal outcome in most people's minds. So if we look at services procurement as a whole, what are the sort of issues that you think exist within the world of services procurement at the moment, in terms of how it's managed, how it's addressed, how planning is done, what it's giving the business, and how the business is engaging services suppliers?
It's interesting because so much of my experience in services procurement is that it's the overarching view from execs is that it's seen as discretionary spend, right? And it absolutely is. But I'm glad you asked that particular question, because I've been working on a SWOT on that with my team recently whilst we build our next 3-year plan. I think it all stems around inconsistency of approach. Lack of data has been my downfall wherever I've worked, but obviously a huge opportunity as well. And then I think most organizations are, or if they're not, they should be looking at those additional value levers now. The opportunities, if you get services procurement right, to really drive your company's agenda around sustainability, more specifically carbon emissions, your ESG and D&I and diversity policies, your decisions around upskilling your people, almost that build, buy, borrow approach, if you like, and segmentation. But the big ones that I've come up with my colleagues recently, I think there's inconsistencies around supplier rate cards, particularly if they're not all expiring and being negotiated at the same time. I think there's a real inconsistency around performance monitoring. If different parts of the business are working with the same single or same set of suppliers, then unless you've got a really robust supplier relationship management framework, you're going to have inconsistencies, and even more dangerous than that, different perceptions of how they're performing across your organization. I think, as I mentioned earlier, lack of sight is the big one for me. Having worked previously in contingent workforce where vendor management systems are king, with systems like yours and the companies that you compete with in the market, if you could easily pull data on what release orders or statement of works are active in your business at that point, when they run until, who's buying it, what the service description actually is, what the intended outcomes are, then suddenly that big headache that most of us refer to as I work in a really complex category in a really complex business starts to melt away a little bit. I think what we end up with as services procurement people is a list of issues that need fixing on a tactical basis. And unless you can get those foundational layers right with the strategy that start to deal with kind of the quality assurance piece rather than the quality control, which is the immediate fixes, then you're probably going to be on that cycle forever. And one great example of that is scope creep. So do we believe that as services procurement people that it's sometimes used to bring in people that are probably more akin to a worker rather than services? Almost certainly. But can we say it with certainty? Not always. We need that data. We need those definitions, and we need to align and run those sprints and projects to really get under the skin and make sure that categorization of procurement is right.